here's Brody Brazil.
If you were somebody who was worried about the Arizona Diamondbacks potentially going on Major League Baseball's relocation endangered species list, I can kind of take those concerns out of your mind right now. It appears this team is going to be playing at that ballpark until about the year 2055 or so. $500 million has been approved. It's going to come from taxes via the state, the city, and the county, and it's going to Chase Field, approximately 30 years old. There's been a ton of complaints about the ballpark, an HVAC system that needs an upgrade, a roof that just had to be repaired, everything else they need to do infrastructure-wise. You'd like to think that can all be taken care of in the next 30 years with $500 million. Oh, by the way, the Diamondbacks, because of what was passed in Arizona law, the team is actually on the hook. They don't even own the ballpark. They're on the hook to also pay an additional $250 million across 30 years as part of this package. Let's get into the big picture here and why there was some concern, some lightweight concern that maybe the Arizona Diamondbacks, if they didn't get what they wanted here, what they needed here, they might pursue another option. Everybody in Phoenix right now still a little bit sour about the hockey team that relocated to Utah. Obviously, the baseball team might have used that to some degree as leverage to get everybody moving here in Phoenix and in Arizona. The Diamondbacks lease, it still does expire at the end of the 2027 season. This law doesn't mean there's a new lease in place, but it very much does indicate that something's going to get worked out with the team and government entities to be able to stay at that ballpark. The team had suggested alternatives about where they might go, what they might do. I'll show you an exact quote in just a second. But yeah, so many issues with this ballpark. There used to be a leak literally right on the pitcher's mound. It's a dome stadium, right? It's a retractable roof stadium, but there was a leak in the stadium of all places. It would drop right on the pitcher's mound. So a bunch of things to repair and try and improve over the years. It's also one of the oldest National League ballparks, if you can believe it, on the circuit. Not the oldest, but I think top 5 in the National League in terms of age. It's coming up on 30 years. That is kind of the time where you do want to pay a little bit more attention to these ballparks. You want to prepare this place for the next 30 years. It's just a question of, well, who owns the place? The team doesn't, but who should be on the hook to make those upgrades happen? They also want to work on infrastructure to improve what's already gone past its expected lifespan, approximately 30 years, pipes, wiring, all that type of stuff. So a lot of needs at this ballpark. It seems like it's been not cared for in the best way, but now they want to get it back on pace and on track. Luis Gonzalez, right? Former Diamondback player, now advisor to the front office for the Diamondbacks. He said this at the beginning of this baseball season, quote, "The stadium is in dire need of improvement and repair. We need a new scoreboard. The roof needs fixing. Then there are the critical repairs nobody sees, the plumbing, the pipes, and the other infrastructure fixes. Obviously, there are other states that want teams, and this is our team, our hometown team. We don't want to go anywhere. We want to be here in the state of Arizona. The Diamondbacks are Arizona," end quote. That was from March of this year, 2025. But anytime you floated out there that there are other states that want teams, and we're very aware of Salt Lake City, we're very aware of Portland, we're very aware of, you name it. There's a handful of other cities that could get it done, but there are 2 on the West Coast right now I feel like are pretty turnkey in wanting a baseball team. The point is, once that gets floated out there, you can't unsee that anymore. The team also did some marketing behind the scenes to get this House bill moving, to get some momentum behind it. More on that in just a second. But I think it's pretty obvious here that the Diamondbacks didn't necessarily threaten relocation, but they're the ones who interjected it into the conversation. House Bill 2704, this is what was just passed. As I'm recording this, it's still not signed by the governor, but she has indicated that's just a formality. It will get signed by the governor of Arizona. It was approved by the House and the Senate. I think it actually had to go back to the House because there were enough modifications, but the House voted it through for a second time. So basically, this is a done deal, House Bill 2704. It diverts $500 million, which can be worth more over time than that. But in terms of what's actually being put into this funding for it, $500 million is capped in sales tax across 30 years by the city, by the county, and by the state. So it's a fixed amount. It's not going up, but it's still $500 million. And in a time and an era of cuts, education, first responders, it's really hard to divert sales tax into something else all of a sudden. This is not a new tax. This is just taking the taxes that exist and funneling these monies to other places, like in this case, Chase Field. More on that in just a second. The funds go to the stadium district that owns Chase Field for repairs and upgrades, and it's very specific that it cannot be used. This $500 million cannot be used for things like the pool area or luxury suites or any extra amenities. It has to be for the bare necessities of keeping this building open and operational. The team would fund any debts if they decided to leave Chase Field or if they weren't paying their fair share. And by that, by the way, when House Bill 2704 was being drafted, it did not initially have the mandated contribution by the Diamondbacks in there. Lawmakers put that in, that if the Diamondbacks want this, and they do want $500 million, they also have to chip in $250 million over 30 years. Now, if you think about what $250 over 30 years is, and if you start stashing some of that away right now, you're going to get some interest on it. The bottom line is a Major League Baseball team can probably afford $10 extra million, even over 30 years, and who knows where this is going. I don't actually specifically know the rent that they have been paying, or obviously they're going to strike a new deal in terms of rent for the next 30 years as part of this agreement. Maybe their rent's going to go down, but they have to contribute $250 million. So it's actually a $750 million package. $500 is coming from public subsidies. The team has to chip in $250 over 30 years. By the way, the team is chipping in $250. They don't own the park. I mean, if you really do think about this, this is the upside of the deal for the public, right? Is that something that makes money, something that the public gets to go use and go see other events as well as Diamondbacks games. This is almost like upgrading a rental car. You don't own it, but you're going to pay into upgrades for this car that other people are going to get to drive. And at the end of the day, somebody else can take away from you after 30 years. All the benefits here could eventually be worth over $1 billion after inflation across 30 years, but $500 million is important. You know, that is the public contribution cap, right? So there's no more than $500 million coming from public subsidies. This would, I say would, I use asterisks there, this would keep the team at Chase Field until at least 2055. You would have to assume that with a 30-year deal like this, that's law, they don't have a lease in ink right now, but they'll have to get a new lease with the stadium for the next 30 years because of all this stuff. Derek Hall is the Diamondbacks CEO. He actually had this quote before it was officially revised by the House one more time, but you could see that it had already been passed by the House and Senate once. It was just a formality. The House would send it through. The governor's going to sign this. So Derek Hall could see victory formation here. And this is what he said, quote, "This is obviously another major step after receiving approval of HB 2704 in the Senate. This has been a long yet collaborative and productive process, and I'd say signs are pointing towards a positive solution. I'd like to thank all supportive lawmakers as well as fans, community members, and corporate partners, and small business owners who have had their voices heard." All right, it's time for some takeaways. Ha-ha! I finally hit that little stinger perfectly. Usually it scares me. I forget it's in there and I jump. Whoa, not this time. I knew it was coming. House Bill 2704, it has to pass in the House and the Senate. It actually passed in the House back in February, right? So we knew that this was on its way through. We didn't know if it would pass the Senate, ultimately get through. It didn't even pass the Senate until here in June, and just about 1 week before the state's budget has to be complete. Obviously, if you're going to push $500 million into a next year's budget, you need to work this out before the budget was done. So it kind of did come down to the wire. And I don't know if that's just bargaining or negotiation or taking your time to throw back in the $250 that the Diamondbacks are on the hook for, but this didn't exactly slide right through quick and easy. There was definitely some delay and some deliberation on this. Chase Field, as I mentioned, is the fourth oldest ballpark in the National League. It opened in 1998. So I do understand to some degree that if you've made it 30 years and you want to make it another 30 years, you do want to interject some improvements right now. I totally understand that. I'm not against improving the ballpark, but I do understand where people are going to be upset. And that is the next point here. Sales tax are from the site, and they do come from sales tax on the site, but it's still money that's being diverted. These were monies that were going to the city, the county, and the state for other things, more important things than, quite honestly, baseball. And you know I'm a sports fan. You know I love to go to a nice brand new stadium, or I love to see teams stay in their locations. I hate the threat of relocation towards a place like Phoenix if they couldn't get what they wanted, the Diamondbacks. But I also understand why citizens aren't going to be happy here, and that, all of a sudden money that this place has been generating for the public is now going to have to kick a little bit back into itself. So I do see both sides of it, but I certainly understand the public sentiment. Anybody who's not exactly thrilled with the fact that some things are getting cut, and now a baseball stadium's getting $500 million across 30 years. There's no question, the last point I want to make here, no question that the Diamondbacks in Major League Baseball, they use some leverage here. And whether it was a former player, current employee, their CEO, other people in the community, you name it, there were people tied to and associated with the Diamondbacks that kind of mentioned it, that if this doesn't happen, we might look at other options. Not saying we're going to move, but it's that hint of relocation that's got everybody on edge. And because so many other teams are talking about it, one team, like maybe the Oakland A's, are doing it. Maybe the Tampa Rays might do it if their situation does or doesn't work out in Tampa or Orlando, whatever. The point is, that's kind of on the table as a strategy these days. And so it was used here. House Bill 2704 was also very much pushed by the team. They covered it. They got their fan base in on it. So there's no question that baseball and the Diamondbacks, they didn't just sit on their hands. They went out and were pretty aggressive on this, and they ended up getting what they wanted out of it. So I guess the best takeaway for me out of all of this, and certainly as somebody who's not a taxpayer in the Valley, the city, the county, or the state of Arizona, I mean, I'm happy that the D-backs are staying. It's up to everybody in Arizona to figure out, well, is this worth it? And actually, I'll say this, you also got the team to chip in half that amount and be not a one-to-one partner, but you did get something out of them for something that they don't even own. So there was a little bit of give and take here. I just don't know if it's enough to satisfy everybody's appetite. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Also, while you're down there, thumbs up on this video helps me, the video, and the channel. And don't forget, you got to subscribe to this channel. You know why? Because I definitely want to see you back here next time.